And Laura Berstecher is here with us in the newsroom to take us through what's making international headlines today. Good to see you, Laurent. We're going to start over in the United States. Now, Georgia is a state, of course, that played a key role in the recent elections. They've just passed some electoral reforms there, haven't they?
Well, that's right. And it's fair to say the news hasn't been very well received in the American press. Let's start by looking at Time magazine, which tells us the sweeping changes have voting rights advocates worried. Now, to quickly go over some of the bill's provisions, it gives the state more control over the county election board and criminalizes the practice of line warming. So essentially, it's now illegal to go hand out food and water to people waiting in line to vote. The law also limits the use of mobile voting buses and bans provisional ballots for most out-of-precinct voting. Now, critics have called it an attempt by the Republican-led state to influence those who can vote and those whose votes are counted, and specifically, it's designed to suppress turnout among black and brown voters, according to Time. Now, that's an argument we also see in the New York Times, which says the bill will hit black people hard. In an op-ed, the paper argues the new restrictions disproportionately impact black and Latino voters who make up about a third of the state population and who generally vote Democrat. For instance, in the last election, black voters were a major force in flipping Georgia, with roughly 90% voting for Joe Biden. Now, the New York Times also mentions the law comes as Donald Trump continues to publicly claim the election was stolen. And that's something we see again in Rolling Stones in an article which accuses Trump's big lie of fueling this current voting rights debate. The article is arguing the new restrictions respond specifically to some of the fictions promoted by Donald Trump when claiming the election was stolen, for instance, by cracking down on mail-in voting. And it sees the bill as an effort really to appease Trump and Trump's loyal supporter base.
Okay, well, very different debate going on in the UK, where coronavirus restrictions are gradually being eased. People there are hoping to be able to go to the pubs over the summer, but the landlords are saying that they don't want to be the ones to check who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been vaccinated, right?
Well, that's right. It's kind of a big debate right now. And well, just to sum it up, Prime Minister Boris Johnson suggested introducing these vaccine passes for pubs and bars, essentially allowing people who have a proof of immunity to enter these venues and to reopen parts of the economy faster, which is essentially what Israel is doing with the Green Pass. And the idea has gotten mixed reception in the press. Let's start by looking at The Guardian, which says it's mostly a way to encourage young people to get vaccinated, as they're particularly hesitant to get the jab. Many don't feel they need it. And well, actually, let's be honest, what better way to get young people to do anything than to promise them a pint of beer? I know it would work with me. Looking at another British paper, the Daily Mail, which also headlines on this issue, and reports widespread fury over the idea, particularly in the hospitality sector, as you mentioned, where a lot of people are opposed to these pub vaccination passports, as checking them would require extra staff, extra time and money that a lot of establishments simply cannot afford. And finally, the Daily Star sums up the general backlash towards the plan in typical tabloid fashion, with a possibly photoshopped picture of Boris Johnson alongside the caption, "Bozo Pub Chaos."
Yeah, very British tabloid, that one at the end. All right, let's end with a bit of sports, shall we? Rugby. France will be playing Scotland later today in the latest round of the Six Nations Cup.
Well, that's right. And the two countries were actually supposed to meet in February, but the game was postponed due to a COVID outbreak in the French squad,
I remember,
which
yes.
at the time already angered the Scottish camp quite a bit, as they said they were disadvantaged by the delay. And now there's a recent tweet by the French Rugby Federation, which is unlikely to lighten the mood, wishing everyone a happy International Waffles Day. Now, if you're also wondering why France is tweeting about waffles, well, this article by the Scotsman is here to explain it. Basically, it recently emerged that several France players broke COVID rules and were spotted going out for waffles while in Italy, and that's what caused a lot of them to contract COVID. So this is what the provocation is about. It's also worth noting that it was really International Waffles Day yesterday, but that doesn't change the fact that this tweet is perhaps a little bit in bad taste. And as the article puts it, it's doubtful Scotland will see the funny side of that story. However, it's possible this piece of banter could motivate Scottish players to perform even better in tonight's game.
Ah, I thought waffles were Belgian.
They are, and
Adding
that's
to the
why,
confusion.
hence the explanation needed. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we needed that, didn't we? Lauren, thank you very much indeed. Lauren Velstetter there with today's press review.